Welcome back, boxing fans. Today we're going to be talking about Inoue's card in Japan, some of the prelim fights, and of course the main event, and what we'd like to see Inoue do moving forward. Obviously, these are topics that we've discussed previously, but we'll be getting into it. So jump in the comment section and tell me what you think. Until there, stay tuned, and I will talk to you in a minute. Welcome back, boxing fans. So we have another weekend of boxing upon us. We also have, of course, our weekly boxing prediction league, which I'm not doing bad. After I got that inside scoop, I've been doing better. So luckily for that, it's nice that the administrator gave me the 411. Since then, I've been doing far better. So hopefully that'll be the difference between being a top contender this year. So let's just look at some of the fights. Have they been set up the schedule yet? Oh, that's so strange, eh? We don't have the new schedule listed yet. Let me just leave him a reminder. Maybe he just forgot me. Terrible. But that means we can get straight into it right away and talk about Inoue and his fight card, which I'm pretty impressed with. But let's get into it. Stringer from above is in the house. What's up, my man? So let me just share my little PPT right here, and we can take a peek. Obviously, this is a card that we know Inoue was going to be fighting next. People were pretty negative, of course, as far as this particular opponent. This is really just a stay busy opponent for Inoue. Obviously, a guy to put some money in his pocket. Also, somebody for him to showcase against in front of his hometown fans. See, that's the thing that a lot of Americans that are really anti this fight are failing to sort of think about. What he's doing is he's feeding his Japanese fan base, right? And primarily that is the fan base that sort of dictates his career. They're a fan base that are excited and happy to see Inoue stay busy. They will be excited to see him fight Tahoni, a guy who's been fighting in Japan quite a bit recently, so is a name commodity. And obviously, the kind of opponent Inoue is going to look spectacular against, which is obviously going to get Japanese boxing fans super hyped and stoked, right? Moving to the end of 2024. And then we do expect that he's probably going to have a fight probably in December, as December tends to be the biggest part of the year for Japanese boxing cards. And if that's the case, that'll be fantastic. Hopefully it'll be a better opponent. I know he obviously has that mandatory opponent from Australia. If that's the guy he fights, that's the guy he fights. You can get your mandatory over. That particular individual is a mandatory for 2 of his sanctioning belts. So, you're doing a lot of work by getting him out of the way and then obviously opening up 2025. But let's take a look at this particular card and the way it's setting up. So there we go. Tuesday, September the 3rd. So coming up pretty soon. This card is pretty fucking solid. Obviously, you have Ismael Barrasso. Everybody is very familiar with Barrasso. He is obviously the WBA mandatory for the 140-pound title, the guy that's in line for a potential Jose Valenzuela fight. Obviously, he was in line for a Rolly Romero fight. Rolly blatantly ducked him, and he obviously was in line for an Isaac Cruz fight. Isaac Cruz chose to move in a different direction. We know Barrasso, he's like 40 years old, very hard punching fighter, exciting, but the kind of guy that if you're really a top fighter, an elite fighter, he's the kind of guy you should get out of there. We remember when Corolla, a guy that Lomachenko knocked out spectacularly, beat Barrasso to become a world champion. So, he's been beat before and beaten by opponents that people love to shit on. So let's keep that in context. Iceman's in the house. What's up, my man? Barroso obviously is fighting to become or re-solidify himself as the WBA mandatory. So the WBA put Andy Hiroka, the tough Japanese fighter, in the way. For Andy Hiroka, this is the perfect sort of scenario. He's fighting a hard punching fighter, but an older fighter, right? If Andy Hiroka really is the real deal, this is the kind of fight that should be pretty much easy work for him, right? He should be able to go in there, get rid of Barrasso. Even if he doesn't spectacularly knock him out, he should be able to go in there and dominate and get that victory, putting himself in line for a possible world title fight at 140 pounds for the WBA title. And the way things are unfolding in front of us, that just might be a Gervonta Tank Davis fight, because some of the rumors that are going on are that Gervonta Davis is going to be moving up to 140 to take on Valenzuela for his WBA title, so that Tank can become a legitimate 3-weight world champion. I like Andy Hiroka, but whenever I've seen him, I haven't been blown away by his talent, right? Obviously, there's a lot of things I thought he needed to improve. He wasn't the fastest or technically best fighter at 140 pounds. He's the kind of guy that any of the elite fighters, I think, probably should be able to beat him quite handily. But obviously, that was a few years ago, I think, the last time I saw him fight. So it'll be interesting to see how he's improved moving forward. But it's an exciting fight, getting Barrasso to go over to Japan to fight on the undercard of Inoue, to open the door for another Japanese fighter to potentially become a world champion. Can Andy Hiroka do it? Who knows? That's obviously the question that's going to be answered. If Barrasso goes in there and knocks his ass out, then everything has been answered right there. If you can't beat a 40-year-old Ismael Barroso, then there's no point us giving you too much fucking attention anyway. Drunk Irishman's in the house. Then, of course, on this undercard as well, very interesting, is Jin Sasaki, another up-and-coming 140-pound Japanese fighter. The only loss on his career was by his countryman, Andy Hiroka. So there you go. Sasaki, similarly, hard puncher, very aggressive fighter, but technically has quite a few flaws. The last time I saw him fight, he's going to be fighting this guy, Kwamil Bala. I'm very unfamiliar with that guy. I have no idea at all who he is and what he's done in the sport of boxing. Let's just open BoxRec and look a little closer into his career. I'm surprised this fight's even listed, because it is a WBA title, and we know that WBA is not playing favorites with BoxRec, or vice versa. BoxRec's not playing favorites with the WBA. What are you doing, BoxRec? Fuck off. Okay, so there we go. We're on the undercard. TJ Dahoney, Inoue, pop up the event. There we are. So Kwamil Bala. So here's this guy. He don't look very scary. 15 wins, 1 loss, 1 draw, 8 KOs. I'm pretty sure if we look at his resume, it's against a lot of subpar opponents. He's another Australian fighter, so there's an interesting fact. He's got a loss to George Kambosos back in 2017, lost unanimous decision. Fought once in 2018, once in 2019, didn't fight in 2020 or 2021, came back in 2022, 2023. This is his one fight in 2024. Sasaki, currently 17-1-1, 16 KOs, 1 loss to his countryman, Andy Hiroka. 23 years old, pretty young, 5'8.5" with a 68.5-inch reach. Pretty good measurements for 140 pounds. His last win was pretty good. He beat Joe Norne, a very good veteran fighter who 23-3-2, stopped him in 5 rounds. So that's a pretty good victory. Coming off of that, you would expect him to easily be able to get rid of this Australian opponent. As you can see here, back in 2021, he lost to Andy Hiroka, who currently is 23-0 with 18 KOs, who is 28 years old, 5'11.5" with a 74-inch reach. Andy Hiroka's measurements for a Japanese fighter are fucking outstanding, especially for 140 pounds. Whew, right? You could see he's a dangerous fighter because of his length, size. He's coming off of far less stellar victories. Obviously, since beating Sasaki, He's been in with very subpar opponents, right? Which is nothing to get excited about. Whereas Ismail Barossa, the old motherfucker, 25, 4, and 2, 23 KOs. The monster from Colombia. Obviously, he got knocked out in a controversial fight by Rolly Romero, and he just scored a spectacular victory by beating O'Hare Davis, knocking him out in one fucking round. I mean, nobody could have imagined Barrasso knocking out fucking O'Hare Davis like that. Like beating him, okay, but knocking him out in one round, Jesus fucking Christ, what a statement that is. Drunk Irishman says, shout out to Marius Breedis, who retired yesterday. Yes, I'm going to do a short minute video, shouting out Breedis, obviously a very good fighter. His last performance was spectacular. This Bivol better Biev undercard below Sean. Well, it's good if you're a UK boxing fan, right? It's really being directed towards the UK audience. Obviously, it's the same time frame as the UK. It's not really being perpetuated for the American audience, right? And you can see, because there's really nobody on the card that really Americans are going to pay attention to outside, of course, of the main event, which they're not really paying much attention to. That's why the fight's in Saudi Arabia and not in Vegas. And of course, Shakur Stevenson, who his last couple performances have been very underwhelming. So maybe letting him go and fight somewhere else without the hostile American crowd might actually be good for him. But I agree, if they're going to try to sell this as a pay-per-view to the American audience, that's a no fucking bueno. That's a bad marketing plan. If they want to attract the American audience, this should be free on DAZN with your subscription. And at that way, you're going to get Americans to pay attention to it. It's obviously going to be at an awkward time for the American audience as well. So I can't imagine it being a pay-per-view for the Americans. For the English, yes. For the Americans, no. Latvian legend. Hiroka is a southpaw, and he has pop. True. But I've been pretty disappointed from his performances recently. And just look at the way they've been moving him. Very softly. I get a feeling better BF may back out. That's a fast recovery. Fucking Christ. Let's hope not. This is a fight we've been waiting for a long time. Nobody wants a fucking another delay. Why isn't Opataya getting a better opponent? Well, and this makes sense to me. The way I had it explained, maybe by Ring IQ or somebody, and it makes 100% sense. They were trying to do a unification fight with Billum Smith, but Billum Smith turned down the offer, saying he didn't have enough time to prepare for this kind of opponent, and he was going to only move at his own pace, thinking that somehow he is the A-side, right? But, he's not really the fucking A-side, but okay, whatever you want to do. So they're just trying to keep Opataya busy. Obviously, everybody's ducking him because he's dangerous. Yeah, Sasaki deserves a title shot more than him. Yeah, his last performance, right? Far better fighter than what he's been doing. But he does have a victory against Sasaki. So obviously you got to keep that in mind. But let's look at the next fight. And this is one that I'm kind of interested in. I would love this opponent to be Roman Gonzalez's next opponent. It's kind of a shame that Roman Gonzalez isn't on this card, if that was the case, because this would be the perfect sort of build-up and selling point to a potential Yoshika Take, current, I think, IBF, maybe, or WBA, I think IBF, 118-pound bantamweight world champion. He's going to be fighting tough Japanese fighter Diego Higa. I don't know if you guys remember Diego Higa. He sort of came on the scene the same time as Ken Shiro, and both of them ended up winning world titles really early in their careers. Obviously, Ken Shiro was a far better technical fighter who's went on to be one of the best Japanese fighters in history. Higa, a hard punching fighter, ended up getting kind of exposed as being a little one-dimensional, having power, but not really being the toughest fighter with the best chin, and not really technically that proficient. And obviously, when he jumped up in weight, his power wasn't quite as dominant as it had been previously. But for Take to make his first title defense against Diego Higa in Japan, that, my friends, is a fucking fight the Japanese fan base is going to be super excited about, right? because now you're talking about two very well-known Japanese fighters, both with a lot of power. So, it's a fight to get excited about. This is potential fight of the year as far as Japanese boxing fans are concerned. I don't know if it's going to turn out that way because, as I said, Higa's been a little disappointing. Obviously, once he moved up in weight, he was kind of exposed. Whereas Take is a hard puncher, was very lucky. He ended up getting the nod in his world title defense. And then, obviously, his opponent passed away. Oh, no, it wasn't his opponent. Sorry. He fought the Australian brother and got a controversial decision, a fight I thought he actually lost. Hard puncher, really wild and reckless. That's the kind of trend we have here with Andy Hiroka, Jin Sasaki, and Takei, and even Higa. Exciting fighters, hard punchers, but really rough around the edges. Guys that really need to polish their skills a lot more. Take a page out of Inoue's book and sort of try to follow suit, right? And do what he's been doing, because obviously he's got that shit polished, shiny, bright. Iceman, Scully will be on channel tonight. We can find out more. Scully will be on what channel? Welcome back. Just back from the islands with a boat. Very wavy ride. Ooh. Kenshiro is the Japanese Shakur. Well, he's more exciting than Shakur, and he does show a little more pop. Why not Zerto for unification? I'm not sure. Takai edged Maloney. That's it. Maloney didn't do anything until the end of the fight. Would Japan ever do Junto versus Inoue if they could? Well, I think Japan would. The question is, what does Inoue want to do? Is he more interested in sort of building his brand in the U.S. and abroad by obviously moving to 126 pounds? Or is he more interested in really becoming a superstar in Japan? Him versus Junto Nakatani easily would be the biggest fight in Japanese boxing history. That shit would be fucking unreal. And that's why I'm pushing for that, because if you're a boxing fan, that's the matchup you should be wanting to happen. None of those fights at 126 is fucking even close as far as exciting or entertaining. Yeah, would be one of the biggest fights in Japanese boxing history. Exactly. Wow, with Joseph. WAW with Joseph. What the hell is that? What is WAW with Joseph? Some strange names. Okay. I got it. I'll check that out. WAW with Joseph. But yeah, Yoshika Take versus Diego Higa. That shit is a can't miss fight. It should be very entertaining for as long as it lasts. And that fight easily could be over inside 3 rounds. Easily. Let's take a closer look at that fight. Where are we? Takai, good puncher, 9-0, right? 8 KOs. Strong guy. Obviously, we see that he's been working in Inoue's gym, so hopefully that's going to really help him. 28 years old, definitely not a young fighter, right? Outside of beating Jason Maloney in a fight that was entertaining but showed quite a bit of areas that he could fix. He's definitely the kind of guy that is beatable. Higa, 21-2-1, obviously knocked out once when he lost his title. 19 KOs. And this is a guy you can see on YouTube sparring Inoue, right? As a stay busy sort of in-between fight. I think maybe it was during COVID. Obviously, he lost to Christopher Rosales, Roman Gonzalez's cousin, back in 2018 to lose his title, getting knocked out in the 9th round. Went on to get a majority draw against Sisa Tsutsumi, who his opponent did die recently. And then obviously he lost to Nishida, who is currently the WBO champion at 118 pounds by unanimous decision. But Nishida, compared to this kid, very different. Nishida is a very good boxer. He's a lot more like Junto Nakatani. Oh, no, not Junto Nakatani, sorry. Kenshiro, right? Very skilled fighter. Not a big puncher, but technically very, very good. Whereas the guy he's fighting now is not nearly as entertaining. I mean, he's more entertaining, but he's not nearly as skilled. And he lost to him when he was literally 3-0. 3-0. Since then, he's fought really good opposition. And now he's going to fight a guy that's 9-0 to try to become a two-weight world champion. I think that fight's going to be very entertaining, very entertaining. He's a promoter. Oh, Pro Box card didn't look bad tonight. It's a good card, right, with old refugee PBC fighters. Higa looks like a Yakuza. Nishida put on a great performance against Manny. Manny? Which Manny? And of course, the main event of this card, which is always going to be entertaining, is the monster, Inoue. He's going to be facing Dehaney. Obviously, TJ Dehaney is an ex-world champion, Irish, Australian fighter, never been knocked out, right? So people are critical, but when you look at his record, 26-4, 20 knockouts, got some pop, never been knocked out. And he was literally in Fight of the Year when he fought Daniel Roman for unification back in the day. That fight between him and Daniel Roman was a great fight. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. Since then, obviously, he lost to tough Filipino fighter Baluta, lost to Michael Conlon, who's a very difficult fighter to fight, very skilled, very slick, right? A guy that's going to make it very difficult for you to look good against. Beat Cesar Juarez, lost to Sam Goodman, and is coming off of 3 big performances back to back to back, knocking out all 3 of his opponents, 1 in 4 rounds, 1 in 1 round, and 1 in 4 rounds again. And that's not bad. 2 of them were undefeated. 1 of them only had 1 loss on his resume. So, those fights obviously have sort of built this fight up. So as far as the Japanese crowd, they are pretty excited to see Inoue get back in the ring and fight Dehaney. Obviously, Americans are a lot more pessimistic, a lot more negative. If you watch American YouTube channels, that speaks volumes. Emmanuel Rodriguez, the former IBF champ. He looked great, right? I mean, going into that fight, that was a super tough fight to predict. Emmanuel Rodriguez is a very good fighter, has some great wins on him, just coming off a very good fight, victory against, obviously, Gary Russell's brother. And then to go in with this young guy with less than 10 professional fights, right? That was one of the criticisms people were throwing at Madrimov for as far as a Bud Crawford opponent, because he'd only had 11 professional fights. But then you have a kid like this, you have Ken Shiro, you have a lot of these Japanese fighters that ended up becoming champions really early. Lomachenko, Rigo, right? If you're super skilled and have great amateur pedigree, when you come into the pro game, it doesn't take you long to get to that level where you can fight world title fights. Dehaney isn't it, Sean. And if Sam Goodman is next, I'm disappointed. MJ Akhmedov could be next if it's at 122. Well, to be fair, Zaki, American boxing fans wouldn't give a shit if it's Sam Goodman. They wouldn't give a shit if it's TJ Dehaney. They wouldn't give a shit if it's MJ Akhmedov. American boxing fans gonna find any fucking reason to dismiss and downplay Inoue. All to do what? Hype up some Black American fighter and act like Inoue somehow is protected, cheating, overrated in a division with no competition. You've heard all the fucking excuses and you've heard all the fucking rhetoric. So that's why, as far as this is concerned, he's fighting an ex-world champion coming off of 3 knockout victories in a row. His only losses were to champions. And this is a better opponent than fucking Shakur Stevenson is fighting. Shakur's fighting a guy literally who just got knocked the fuck out in his last performance. It's a better opponent than fucking Jay Opatai is fighting. It's a better opponent than fucking Chris Eubank is fighting, right? You could go through the majority of top 50 fighters in the world, and Dehaney is better than probably 85% of those guys' next opponents. It's probably a better opponent than fucking who Tank Davis is going to fight next. Some people would say he's a better opponent than fucking Edgar Berlanga. So, people got to be realistic. Inoue is not trying to market himself to the U.S. He doesn't need to. Why does he need the American market? He's become a superstar, a millionaire, a pound for pound fighter, and is completely fucking doesn't have to deal with the American fucking fan bases at all. Japanese fans are going to be super excited to see him back in the ring against a quality opponent. And even more excited if he goes on and fucking gets a spectacular knockout victory, doing something nobody else has done because Dohoney has never been knocked out in his career. I can't wait to see Inoue fight again in America. Well, hopefully you can wait because that shit may fucking be a long time in the making. I mean, why would Inoue come to America unless it's a really, really, really big fight with a real good opponent that actually generates buzz in the US market? Right now, there's nobody at 126 pounds that does that. The only fighter you could say that is if he moved up to 135 and fought fucking Tank, right? Then, okay, that fight would be a fight to actually make in the US and do in Vegas and, do huge numbers. But that's fucking not even realistic. Zach Key says, what do you think about Tank versus Raya being rumored at 140? Well, we all knew Tank Davis was probably going to fight at 140 pounds for that WBA title, to say that I'm a three-weight world champion, right? Yet, literally duck and dodge every top fighter to just continue to fight in-house PBC fighters to put on $85 pay-per-views that nobody is fucking interested in. This was the same fucking guy in Rio who got knocked the fuck out by De Los Santos. So why not just fight De Los Santos, right? A guy that, made Shakur look bad, a guy that knocked Rio out. Not in America. I'm American. I don't know what that means, Iceman. Another email title for Tank. Exactly. That's all it is. Tank is willing to go to 140 for Raya, but not Devin because he was too big. I know. Everybody knew those were just excuses, right? And don't be surprised if Ryo has a rehydration clause and there's a catch weight on that fight as well, because Tank is the A-side. He can do that. And Ryo's going to get a career high payday, so he doesn't mind selling his title, getting knocked the fuck out to fill his pockets full of bread. I can't hate on him because we would all do that. Iceman says, I'm saying Inoue stay away from America, stay in Japan. Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. I want to see Inoue, and obviously that was going to be part of this video as well. I want to see him branch out and sort of fight on the road. But, obviously well-conceived, well-thought-out fights that build his image and marketability globally. Kind of like I'm saying for Canelo Alvarez right now. I would love to see Canelo fight Mimbili in Japan, fight Berlanga in the States, go fight Mimbili in Japan, and then go fight Chris Eubank in London. Great, smart, right? And then if you're going to go end up facing the top guy, undefeated fighter, undisputed champion at light heavyweight, after that in September of 2025, beautiful, right? Like all the hate people throw at him, but if he goes on, takes on these three opponents globally, and then goes on and takes on the undisputed champion at 175 pounds, win, lose, or draw, I mean, that's a big ball fight. And I don't think it even matters if he loses, if he's competitive in that fight, regardless of who it is, a rematch with Bivol or a matchup with fucking Better Biev, or sorry, not Better Biev, or potentially David Benavidez, if he does actually jump at the chance to fight the winner, which I don't see happening. Ryo comes with more name value over Edwin. I'm guessing that's why. Well, yeah. Losing to fucking a light puncher, getting knocked out by fucking Edwin, and pulling a big upset versus Isaac Cruz. I wouldn't do that. Tank can't get Loma, Shakur, Zepeda. Why not unify with Branchek? Exactly. And it's not like he can't get Loma, Shakur, Zepeda. You pay those guys the money fucking that you need to pay them, you're going to get the fight. right? This is another thing people talk about him being the face of boxing in America. See, Canelo Alvarez gets the fights he wants. If he wants to fight this fighter, those fights get made. Why? Because he pays them the money that he needs to pay them to get them to fucking take the fight, right? He got Caleb Plant to take the fight by paying him $9 million fucking dollars. He got Charlo. He got all the opponents he wanted. Tank Davis, on the other hand, talks a big game. His fans act as if he's the face of boxing. Knockout Boxing will fucking point fingers at everybody else and talk about how Tank Davis is the face of boxing and the A side, but yet he doesn't hold him to any kind of scrutiny as far as not fucking sending the offer. Why aren't you sending the offer that these guys can't walk away from? If you send fucking Shakur, Loma, Zepeda, Baranchik, the kind of offer that would turn their heads, they would be on that contract in fucking 10 seconds. Because like Ryo, like any of these other top fighters, if they're going to get life-changing money, they don't mind taking a huge risk, right? But if you're going to fucking nickel and dime guys and try to fucking play A-side politics and try to lowball them as much as you can so that you get the biggest chunk, the huge chunk of the fight, while they walk away with fucking diddly squat, why the fuck would any of them do that? But you're the A-side. So like Floyd, like Canelo, like De La Hoya, you should be able to fucking offer these fighters the money that's necessary to make the fight offer. And don't tell me they don't know what the number is, because they fucking do. They just don't want to fucking play ball because they would rather fight cheap, low risk, in-house PBC opponents. Knockout Boxing knows this too, but he'll fucking cap and fucking lie and fucking literally only make videos fucking about Tank Davis now. He's just as bad as fucking all these other fucking clowns now on YouTube. No longer talks about boxing and the events because he knows that doesn't sell. The people who follow his channel don't give a fuck about boxing. They care about racial narratives and pro-black fucking narratives, right? Promoting 5 fighters. And that's all they fucking make content on. Is the winner of Beterbiev versus Bivol winner a shoe-in for first ballot Hall of Fame? I would think they must be. Who's the last light heavyweight undisputed champion? Bivol with a victory over Canelo and Zurdo. Beterbiev beating Bivol, who beat Canelo, Zurdo, as well as the other wins he has, like Vosdik, who was undefeated in unification, Smith, who was an ex-world champion for unification, all the other fights he's had. Obviously, he doesn't have a huge resume, but his resume from day one is fucking stacked. Once again, one of these one of these Olympic fighters, amateur fighters with great pedigree, who moved into the pros, and it didn't take him long before he was fighting world-class fighters. I'm a Tank fan, but yeah, send contracts. I thought after Floyd released him, we were going to get the best fights. But it was never Floyd. It's the PBC, who were always in control. They have nothing in their stable now. Like literally, outside of Tank Davis, what does the PBC have to make pay-per-view fights? No Wilder, no Spence. Charlo's never fucking lived up to that. David Benavidez never lived up to that. You got Canelo, but he's not a fucking PBC fighter. He's just gracing you with his presence. You know, he could move to another promotional company whenever he wants. So literally all they have is Tank Davis. It's like when Golden Boy only had Canelo, right? When you have one fighter to push your fucking company forward, you're not going to risk that fighter. But, you know, that's the way it goes, right? As far as Inoue, we were talking about him basically doing a global tour. I would love to see him do a global tour. Saudi, UK, the States. But you need to have the opponents that actually are marketable and entertaining and interesting to those markets. Obviously, MJ in the Middle East would be a great opponent, right? Muslim, They would be on top of it. They'd be keen. And in truth, you're not trying to sell out huge crowds anyway to Saudi Arabia. Tough to build a star when you barely fight once a year. That's the other problem, right? And this is what PBC fanatics just don't understand. You cannot build a star if the guy doesn't fight enough to fucking be in the forefront of people's minds. People critical of Golovkin when he's fighting some mid-tier opponents in his career. But when all the other guys were ducking you, were you going to just sit around and wait? Or were you going to stay busy, staying busy, staying busy? He was fighting 3 times a year, making sure that he was getting spectacular knockouts, doing what he was supposed to do against that level of opponent, keeping his name in the fucking, the comment section, keeping people talking about him, and continuing to build himself the only way he could, by staying busy, by being active. What you think about Haney and his crew jumping a fan? Well, that's a bitch ass move. It's kind of like the same thing Shakur and his crew did a few years back. Whenever dudes fight like this, it's just bitch, right? Especially when you're a professional fighter. You shouldn't even be involved anyway, because it's a stupid maneuver. Now you're just going to cost yourself money and give yourself a bad fucking look. You got security. They fucking deal with that shit. You get the fuck out of the way and stay away from controversy. This is why dudes like Biggie and fucking, other fucking rappers and, hip hop lifestyle people got shot, because they're hanging out in the wrong areas too late at night, not smart enough to get out of the fucking way when they should. And you stay around areas where you shouldn't be, and fucking trouble is going to find you. And that's what happened. That guy may have started it. But the point is, now on social media, Shakur looks like a bitch because he literally tried to punch the guy between his friends, right? Like, it's not a good look. And then you allow Ryan Garcia to mock you even more and ridicule you. I don't know. Where are we? Jay Perez, what's up? That guy should have fell on the ground and started shaking to get that Devin Haney bag. He's still gonna, try to get the bag by pressing charges and stuff. So that's no surprise. Most ducked. Golovkin and Rigo were the most ducked boxers of the past decade. But people would rather ignore that. You heard lots of people talk about Rigo being ducked, but when it's Golovkin, he don't pass the fucking test. So, people are going to hold him to a whole nother level of criticism. How do you go from promoting Inoue to crying about black people and the PBC? Dale, who's crying about black people? Someone asked me a question about Shakur, and I think I was very fair in the way I broke it down. And as far as the PBC, what are you talking about? We're talking about boxing. Maybe that's something that fucking escapes you with your narratives, but talking about the PBC is talking about boxing. And the fact that the PBC, Tank Davis, who's involved with all these big fights and moving forward, us wanting him to do great things in the sport, what, we shouldn't talk about Tank? It's going to hurt your feelings? Dude, man, you're fucking bitch made. That's fucking clear. I think Iglesias beats Billy right now. Well, you can say that, but at this point, Iglesias hasn't really done anything. His level of competition has been very low. Golovkin and Rigo, most duck boxers the last decade. I knew Abdullah Mason is only 20, but it's time to up competition a bit. He said he wants a title shot in 2025. I don't think he's going to get a title shot in 2025, but him and Iglesias both need to up their level of competition. Out of that fight card, their 2 fights were terrible matchmaking. Not interesting, not beneficial, not going to help them move forward in their careers. It was just really cherry picks that aren't going to help them get better at all. Dale Bailey, defending black Americans when you have a Confederate flag on your profile pic. Typical. Yeah, he had to fight 4 or 5 guys. Sean, black Americans are biased, but so are white Americans, and so are Latin Americans. I never said people weren't biased. The irony is, when white Americans are biased, they're racist. When Black Americans are biased, they're representing their culture. That's the only thing I point out, this blatant double standard. Because if everybody's biased, then everybody should be able to support who they want without people pointing fingers and being critical of them. That's all. Especially white MMA fans. I don't know. I don't watch MMA. Who cares about Tank and black people? Why keep crying about them? Tank Davis is a pound for pound top fighter. That's why. But maybe you're not a real boxing fan. Maybe you should go watch MMA. Chisora versus Wilder was being rumored. Well, for Wilder to get more money in his pocket, it makes sense. I think it'd be an entertaining fight, but I think Chisora knocks his ass out, right? Which wouldn't be a good look for Wilder, especially with all the Wilder fanboys who were, blowing so much smoke up his ass for years. If he goes in there and gets knocked out by Derek Chisora, a guy he was supposed to fight years ago, but fucking walked away from, that's not going to look good. Even though Chisora is coming off of a great fucking victory, even though, oh my God, typical Sprite. Even though I felt sorry for him in that fight. I know he won, but that fight kind of reminded me of Ali versus Larry Holmes and versus Trevor Berbick. Really fucking kind of pathetic to watch. I didn't think he should still be fighting. He got the victory, but I think he should just retire now. But I'm not the one dictating his career. So I don't know. People are going to do what they're going to do. And whether it's a smart move or not, they don't care what I have to say. Just look at Dale Bailey. You can't even talk about boxing without him getting in his fucking feelings. He's offended when black boxers are mentioned in a conversation. Sure, we only talk about Inoue. Okay, we are talking about Inoue. We're talking about boxing. But, okay. Yep, it's a shame. Good morning, Sean. Good morning, Jose. I like your channel. Keep it up, sir. Cheers, brother. Boxing should be viewed from purely an objective point of view. Well, to be fair, fans of all sports are never objective. So I never expect fans to be objective. But if you're going to be a fanboy of fighters you like, then you shouldn't be critical of fighters that are being fanboyed by people they like. That's the only criticism I have, right? That's it. I mean, don't expect to have other people do something that you're not doing, because that shit's bullshit. If you can be a blatant fanboy, then why can't other people? I mean, we see fanboys in every sport. Go look at fucking football. Go look at soccer, English Premier League football. I mean, people are mental. I'm a Liverpool fan. I watch Liverpool content all the time, and people moan and groan and cry like bitches. And I sit there and I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with you people? You're never satisfied. And this is kind of like the American boxing crowd. Never satisfied with anything. Now they're trying to shit all over Turkey al-Sheikh and Saudi Arabia. So getting more fights, more great matchups somehow offends you. These people are they're unreal, because the truth is they're just not boxing fans. I told Bud probably fight GGG. Yeah, I don't think that's happening. I think that's just a blatant rumor. I don't think there's any way GG is coming back to take on Bud Crawford, because he's already a multi-millionaire, got tons of cash, doing lots of big things in Kazakhstan right now, has his own Sodi Pop, part of the sports federation. I don't think he's coming back for a fucking Bud Crawford fight. Maybe an Andre Ward fight, right? Where you have two old motherfuckers who both have been inactive. I do watch MMA. Very entertaining. Of course you do. Does the winner of Better BF and Bivol move ahead of either Usyk, Inoue, Bud on the pound-for-pound list? No, not on my list. I don't think they should. Being undisputed is great. Obviously, they're top 5. The winner of that is up there with Inoue, Usyk, Bud, the winner of that fight, and on my card, Tank Davis. Underneath of that, you have Canelo. But of course, it depends on what Canelo does moving forward. I just think Canelo's been sliding and obviously isn't the same fighter he once was, or I'd have him above Tank. Uh, how am I shitting on Turk? Dude, man, your ears are full of shit, or what's going on with you? Did I ever say you were hating on Turk? Are you okay? You keep generalizing. Who are you talking about when you say Americans? See, dudes like you, man, are so fucking pussified. How have you survived all this time when every single comment fucking offends you? Even when you know it wasn't directed at you. This is the problem with Americans. This is why you guys are fucking hated around the world, mocked and ridiculed from every country globally because of this stupid kind of mentality. If I'm not talking to you, why are you being sensitive? You fucking are on YouTube all the time. You see all the YouTubers, American YouTubers, who are shitting on fucking Turk and Saudi Arabia, people that are Canelo Alvarez fans, people that are PBC fans, people that are Tank Davis fans. You see them. So stop fucking acting offended over nothing. I think Crawford GG would definitely be entertaining. But Golovkin is fucking inactive, past his best. And then if he beats Crawford, it don't mean anything because now Crawford's in his fifth weight division. If Golovkin loses to Crawford, then people are going to say, see, Golovkin, he was overrated. He was fucking shit. You know, Crawford beat him. It was like, really? People are mental. We don't need to give them reasons to be more mental. Bud Fighting GG tells me he doesn't care about 154 undisputed. GG is a big name. Fight him at 160, and that might get him closer to Canelo payday. Well, potentially, I think that would be the reasoning behind it. But, you know, I think a lot of it's also because the PBC fighters are blatantly ducking him once again at 154, and they don't want to fight him. They're going to drop the WBO title, right? And then obviously Charlo is not going to force mandatory with Crawford. We know Spence and fucking Funduro are going to fight, and then Tim Tszyu is probably going to fight that guy for unification. So, right, these dudes are just ducking hard. The Turk is solid, but not quite Heyman level. Already, he's far fucking superseded anything fucking Heyman did. But okay. Superbud, what did you think of Quebec crowd for Mbili? Do you see that place being a mainstay for him in the future? Well, it's been a mainstay for him, and it's a mainstay for Arthur Beterbiev, right? Quebec fans are hardcore boxing fans, but is it a big enough market to become a superstar? No. Golovkin loves fighting his welterweights, though. Why, John Sean? What welterweight did he fight? American doesn't give a fuck about other countries hating us. That's the problem. Americans don't give a fuck about other countries. And that's why you get hated on. Ignorant. Ignorant American. I hope you got that tattooed fucking just above your fucking ass crack, because that's where you need it. Be specific about the people you're talking about when you say Americans. You are generalizing. Specific. Yeah, Americans. All Americans. Boxing fan Americans. Dale Bailey, primarily. Iceman, Super Tank. So John Sean Boxing, you still didn't say. What welterweights does Golovkin love fighting? The Turk is not a brother. I won't give him full credit. That's where he's fucking coming from for sure. You can't give him fucking credit because he don't look like you. It's ironic. For all those years when Bob Arum and fucking Don King were fighting, you never noticed that this was an issue. Canelo definitely was not a welterweight. He was a fucking 154-pound world champion with a long resume at 154 and had moved up to 160, beat Cotto, and become a world champion in middleweight. Kell Brook was a replacement opponent for Chris Eubank. See, guys like you, it's always amazing to me, so-called boxing fans, how they ignore truth to push narrative, right? People act like Golovkin chased after a Kell Brook fight. That ain't the case. The reason he fought Cal Brook is because of fucking Cal Brook's promoter, Eddie Hearn, who tried to get Golovkin to come to the UK to do a big event. Had Chris Eubank, but Chris Eubank ran away from that, now leaving fucking Eddie Hearn in an awkward fucking position. So he had to find some replacement opponent. So he looked in his stable, found Cal Brook, offered Cal Brook a career high payday, and he took the fight. It's not the first time in boxing history where a welterweight champion moved up and faced a middleweight champion. The only difference is this is the first time in American history where American boxing fans primarily went fucking apeshit to give the middleweight no credit. When Michael Nunn knocked out a fucking welterweight, you think this is the kind of narrative that was being pushed? Not at all. But you don't even know who Michael Nunn is, so that's irrelevant. You don't even know what welterweight he fought, so it doesn't matter. I heard from a Canadian that people in Quebec are kind of racist. Is that true? What do you mean racist? Quebec is full of black people. Haitians are huge in Quebec, right? Because Quebec primarily wants French speakers. They have tons of fucking Middle East people. They got tons of fucking different people. They may be racist against Aboriginal Canadians. And of course, they don't like anyone that doesn't speak French and comes to their country, forcing them to use English, even though they want people to come and spend money in their province. But racist? Come on. They're no more racist than fucking everybody else in the world. These Ukrainians are built out of steel. None of them are easy outs. You know, I found it funny that people weren't giving Derevchenko more credit based on his performance. People acting like Mbili dominated and won that fight somehow in spectacular fashion. Yet, Mbili won a fight against a one-arm fighter and couldn't fucking really do anything more than most of the other guys who beat Derevchenko beforehand. Most countries rely on our tax dollars. That ain't fucking true. The only countries that rely on your tax dollars are the countries you use to perpetuate your fucking wars so you can sell fucking more guns and ammo. But keep telling yourself that, Dale Bailey. Every fucking problem in the world started in fucking America and was exported abroad. So congratulations on keeping the countries around the world fucking destabilized, which is exactly what your government wants. I mean, selling armaments and guns is the number one export fucking you guys produce. You speak French, Sean? No. Brooks' career would go much further if he wasn't a sacrificial lamb. That's true, but he got paid. How did Karen become a number one contender mandated by the IBF to rematch Boots? Ridiculous. Fuck, Zaki. I tell you that about the sanctioning bodies. Outside of the WBO, the rest are fucking garbage. IBF people act like they're good. They're fucking straight up garbage. Charlo Spence never forced to fucking fight a mandatory. But of course, you're going to strip fucking Usyk, basically. You're going to strip Canelo. You're going to fucking force Boots because you just stripped fucking Crawford to give Boots the title. Literally just gave him that. And now you're going to make him fight some dude that fucking nobody gives a shit about and wonder why nobody wants these fights. Nobody wants to see fucking Canelo fight William Skull. No one wants to see Boots fight fucking Karen Chachachek. Nobody wants to see fucking Usyk fight the Croatian guy who had been looking like garbage. Where are you from, Sean? You are white, but very ignorant. Actually, Dale Bailey, you're the ignorant one. What I'm saying is complete facts. And me being white has nothing to do with it. If you can't recognize what your country has done for the last fucking 50, 60, 70 years, that shows how ignorant you fucking are. Because truthfully, everybody knows that. The question is, do you want to fucking admit it? Apparently you don't. So ignorant, stupid, whatever label you want to fucking put on yourself. Wear it fucking happily. What's going on, Sean? Driving and listening. Pound for pound king. What's up, my man? Would you give Brian Norman a shot versus Boots? I think Boots eats Brian Norman, Mario Barros alive. And Stan Jonas, I think, would probably be the best opponent, but is too one-dimensional to actually win that fight. But I want to see him get all those fights. Let's see him become undisputed at 147 and then move to 154. That's what he's got to do. He was talking about the French Canadians specifically, but I see your point. Maybe he was overgeneralizing. Well, you got French Canadians in Montreal, and Montreal is a very culturally diverse city. You have Quebec City, less diverse, super great. And then you have the rest of the French Canadians who are farmers. Yeah, they're probably fucking just as ignorant as English Canadians that are farmers outside of big cities in Canada as well. So, no different than anywhere. Once you get outside of the metropolitan area, you get people who are more ignorant, less educated, more racist. And that's global. Boots Bud, yeah, IBF is getting carried away. He knows I'm Canadian. When is the Inoue fight? September 3rd, a Tuesday. Canadian, so Sean is from Canada, a country that hides behind our military. Oh, even though in World War II, we were the first country supporting fucking Europe, where you were fucking hiding behind your fucking wives' fucking skirts. But yeah, we're hiding behind your military. Yet when shit happens, we're the first country in, whereas you're fucking dick riding and fucking around. But okay. Sure. And then take the glory. Yeah, we won the war. Yeah, okay. You came at the end of the war, but congratulations. Dale Bailey is the sort of guy who generally believes that Bush was a sweetheart. Yeah, you can't be any more ignorant and stupid than fucking this, the typical fucking ignorant American, right? Like, dude, man, look, Bush was awesome. Exactly. Which Bush? Don't say fucking junior, because he was a moron. Bush senior, fucking CIA. So that tells you everything you need to know about him. Starting wars, his specialty. Caitlin Clark has been cooking, arguably the best player in the league since the Olympic break. No, she's killing it, man. Did you see Cheryl Swoops fucking just come out with a podcast and praise the Indiana Fever, but didn't even mention Caitlin Clark? Literally, talked about how great they're playing, then made excuses for fucking Chicago and how they came out and haven't been playing well. Praise fucking, what's her face? Angel Reese, and ignored Caitlin Clark completely. And Caitlin Clark is pushing for a runner-up to the fucking MVP. I mean, shit's funny as hell. Caitlin Clark has been cooking. Bush is a war criminal responsible for millions of deaths. Facts. Americans are too busy bootlicking Netanyahu. Well, it's not Americans that do that. That's New York Jews, right, who fund Israel. As far as most Americans, if they're really that big in supporting Israel, once again, ignorant, right? Because the only time you support these kind of things is because you're ignorant of what led to the problem, right? It's like, hating on Russia to fucking dick ride the Ukraine. I ain't hating on the Ukraine. The Ukraine was used by America to fucking create I can't even say the word, unstable within Europe. America did that on purpose. That's why we want fucking Trump, because Trump wouldn't have done that. No fucking chance. CC is number 6. They shit on her. Swoops, I don't think, was very fond of Caitlin. Swoops is just typical racist, right? She cannot accept a non-black person excelling in a sport. Just like the LDBC and tons of fucking YouTube channels. They cannot imagine that somebody can dominate a sport that's not black and doesn't look like them. Right? Like the stupidity that these people continuously fucking shine on themselves. They are not boxing aficionados, Sean. They are highlight watchers. Exactly. Jews and evangelist Christians. It's a proxy war. Yeah. Right? I mean, no different than what they did fucking by using Iraq to fight against Iran. No different than fucking, what they did to support South Korea against North Korea. No difference than what they did fucking in Vietnam, supporting South Vietnam against North Vietnam, right? The whole Cold War, If you don't know about it, then you shouldn't probably talk about anything that happens today because it's all a result of that. And it just is a waterfall. And you can see where it came from and where it's at today. If you were Devin Haney, would you take a fight before a possible Ryan rematch or just wait for him so there are no inactivity excuses? If I was Devin Haney, I would take a fight. I think that's what he's going to do. That's why he's come back and started talking big now, acting like he's getting back in the ring, even though prior to that, he was talking about how Afghanistan against Russia, exactly. And then, of course, it turned into Afghanistan versus the US. Um, you know, as a fighter, it'd be smart for him to get back in the ring. His last experience in the ring was getting his ass beat up. You should get back in the ring, take a few punches, build your confidence, and then when you get the rematch versus Ryan Garcia, you can go in confidently and go seek your revenge. There's no point going in being out of the ring for fucking more than a year just because Ryan Garcia is suspended. He's suspended because he got caught cheating. Why are you suspending yourself, right? You're not going to make money in the process, and you're also not going to benefit yourself to be at your best. So it just makes sense that he gets back in the ring. Trump is the one that he's supposed to stop the war, but he would help even more to Israel to destroy Gaza. That's not true. That's not true. He created peace in the Middle East. And it didn't take long for the Biden's administration to ruin all that. Trump is one thing, and it's not a warmonger. Not like the rest of the politicians in the US, because he's a businessman. Business, right? He's not interested in creating war. He's interested in creating business. So I respect that. And it'd be interesting to see what Elon Musk is going to do as far as his involvement in the Trump administration. Sean, you're deluded. Lee, how old are you? Let's just use that comment. War is money. So I'm deluded, but you are perpetuating America creating wars around the world for money. Money you don't get. Money the rich people continue to fucking collect. And Lee, the 54-year-old, is getting fucking sweet fuck all out of it. And his country is a shithole, more crime than ever. Fucking the standard of living is lower than it's been fucking in 25 years. Oh my God. Like, Jesus Christ, man. You want to keep pushing that, Lee, because it's done so well for your country the last 25 years. But okay. We have to look out for the man who speaks peace and safety. He is with Iran. Who's with Iran? Trump? No, he's for money, man. Business. Business. It's like people were anti-Saudi Arabia. Now they're spending money. They're opening their doors. Now everybody's gung-ho. The same thing that happened with Japan, China, right? Whenever the market opens and people start doing trade, that's better for everyone. Did you check out the Mike Tyson, Jake Paul press conference? Do you really see it happening this time? I think it's going to happen, but I don't fucking care. And if it does happen, I just hope Mike Tyson knocks his ass out quick. Not that I hate on Jake Paul, but I'd rather see Mike Tyson expose Jake Paul as being not what we know he is, as opposed to seeing an old ass broken down Mike Tyson look pathetic facing a fucking Jake Paul. That's why they want to take him out. He is anti-war, some of the RFK and any other anti-war politicians. Well, exactly. Sean is a beta male. I'm a beta male. Yeah, okay. I'm so offended, Dale. I'm so offended. You're the one on my live crying like a bitch, but I'm the beta male. Okay. You're talking to a vet here. So you fix dogs? Congratulations. I find your statements very offensive. Of course you do, because you're the beta male, Daily. I mean, I have no problem with people fighting for their country. My American family, all are military. But if you're too ignorant to understand how you're being used by your government, that's not my fault. Sorry. There's nothing I can do because you're ignorant, no matter how old you are. Canada's always hid behind our powerful nation. I'm 56 years old and I'll still kick your butt. Oh my God. Oh, Dale. You're sounding more like the LDBC all the time. Tough man on a computer wanting to fucking fight people. How much more pathetic are you going to make yourself look? Keep it up because it's fucking high entertainment. Everyone on the stream is thinking this guy's a fucking idiot. But keep it up. Maybe, you should go back to, you know, those doctors that take care of vets because maybe you still have some, shell shock symptoms that you're fucking dealing with. I don't know. He bombed Iran all the time. Laugh out loud. I've seen H Money and Mosley have part ways with Golden Boy. Mike is taking a dive for the bag. Well, that's the way the contract is set up for sure. And had a famous Iranian general killed just to make Naruto happy. Who's that? Trump? Or are you talking about fucking uh, the black president? Sean, you've been propagandized. Every talking point you have is from Fox News. No, every talking point I have is because I've been around 56 years old, 56 years, and I've seen exactly what's happened during that period of time. You're the one who's fucking obviously buying into the propaganda. And okay, good on you. You're looking like Andrew Tate out here. I'm looking like Andrew Tate. You're looking like a moron, but okay. Oscar had lost it lately. His wife scares me. His wife is fake as fuck, man. She's a scary face woman. Honestly, after seeing Holyfield, I'm worried about Tyson. He might get knocked out. He is almost 60. It's possible, right? And that would be a bad look. I don't want to see that. Jake pushed Tyson with 30% like you push a child or a girl not to hurt him on press conference. Unsubscribed. Oh my God, Dale Bailey. My biggest fucking fan is unsubscribing to me. Oh my God. This is the worst fucking day of my life. Dale, you come on my channel and prove how beta you fucking are. And now saying you're going to unsubscribe, you're the epitome of fucking beta. Like, I'm going to fucking be sad that I don't have to see you in my comment section talking out your ass fucking anymore. Holy fuck. This is the best day of my life. Really. When I opened a new channel, the one thing I thought, the great thing about opening a new channel is I never have to see Dale Bailey on my lives again. That's fucking great. It's almost worth the fact that John closed my channel so I no longer have to listen to this fucking guy. Trump is pro-Israel, but he would not want a war under his watch. He already told Neratu he needs to end the war quick. Andre Tate is wrong a lot, but he's less wrong than most of the woke leftists. That's true. Have you been in the military, young man? No, because as a young man, understanding how the military was just going to use me for political propaganda and a war-making machine, I chose that I would avoid that because why would I give up my life to support a cause that I don't support? I'm like fucking the modern day Muhammad Ali. Can Turkey and the government continue to lose millions on these events? Well, I don't think they're losing millions, but obviously the propaganda coming out of America by haters is they're losing. When they're talking about the money they're losing, are they talking about just in the American-based crowd? Because they're showing these events globally, right? DAZN is global. I don't think Crawford versus fucking Madrimov did less than 200,000 pay-per-views globally. I don't buy that. I think that's complete BS. I think when they talk about that, they're talking about the US market, but then they're ignoring the global market. The global market, unlike the Americans, is not so caught up on all this fucking propaganda from PBC propaganda, pro-black fucking propaganda, all this kind of bullshit that we see on YouTube, right? So I think those numbers are taken out of context completely. Trump did. All I'm saying that even though he is clearly the lesser of two evils, he's not to be trusted. Ali's wife is supporting Trump. I think the Saudis are happy to spend a few million to advertise their country worldwide, especially in more of a pro sort of situation. They used to be part of the axis of evil. Now my coworkers, I tease them because they're South African. Now they're part of the axis of evil because they're grouped together with fucking China. So they always joke too that if China attacks Taiwan, then we're going to be fighting in the staff room, Canadians versus South Africans. He just did want to be a Canadian weak ass military. Well, that too. That too. I was going to go to military college though, but I decided against it because military college is free, right? And obviously, I think it would have led to probably better jobs and stuff moving into the future more than most of those other universities. Maybe it was the wrong move. Maybe I should have did it. But if I would have been obligated to then be in the military, that was a reason to avoid that. All the dudes I know that went to the military, much like him, were fucking idiots. Dudes that fucking were gun happy, power hungry, the kind of dudes you don't want to be police officers and you don't want to be soldiers. Loma was a lightweight, stalled out with his ducking crap. Oh, yes, Garden Snake. Loma is the one that's stopping fucking Tank Davis from fighting Shakur Stevenson. Loma is the one stopping Tank Davis and Shakur from fighting his Ukrainian countryman. Yes, it's Lomachenko's fault. The guy who actually unified all the titles prior to that, something Shakur did at 130 and Tank Davis has never done because Tank Davis has never unified a world title in his fucking life. But yes, it's Lomachenko's fault. Okay, then shut it up and sit behind our military and let us continue to protect your weak ass country. I live in Taiwan. My weak ass country, the country you steal natural resources from. I think it kind of goes within thing. You steal our natural resources, you protect us because it serves your best interest, right? You're not serving your best interest protecting Canada because of the fucking greatness of your heart, because we know the people that control your military, pricks, right? So the only reason they're doing anything is because it benefits them. But of course, you're too ignorant to understand that because global politics as a soldier, you just don't fucking get. That would have been a great move, Newton. You have very twisted understanding of what it means to protect somebody. Prime Oscar versus Canelo, who wins? I would go for Oscar. Loma is the one who ducked. Oh. You know, these guys forget that Tank Davis ducked, and they're okay with it. Because in truth, they don't want Tank Davis to be in a fight that potentially is going to expose him, like Wilder was exposed, like Charlo was exposed, like Spence was exposed, like so many other PBC fighters have been exposed. Their last remaining hope. They don't want him to lose. They don't want him to be in a fight that potentially could expose him as being just another PBC hype job. Oscar 154, Canelo 168. No, why would you do that? Both of them at 154. They're both 154-pound champions. So why wouldn't we do it at 154? Why do you need Canelo to be at 168 to fight Oscar? Like Oscar's biggest move was 160 and he got knocked out to the body by fucking B-Hop. Tank doesn't have a 50-50 fight. That's true. PBC hype jobs get exposed. We see it so many times. I'm sick and tired of Loma. Of course you are, because he keeps beating black fighters' asses, and that must be very difficult for you to fucking accept, because we know you're racially fucking inclined and only support fighters that look like you. So the fact that this white boy is making them look silly, that must be difficult for you, your ego. Even though it's not you fighting, but for some reason, you really fucking take ownership of this shit. Just like I'm sure you hate Caitlin Clark too, because she's making the sisters look kind of fucking shitty right now in the WNBA. And that must be tough too, to have this white girl go in there and fucking dominate the league. But, you know, I understand. I understand your sorrow, my brother. Loma just lost to Haney. Yeah, okay. Keep telling yourself that. Haney fucking was exposed in that fight more than he was exposed in the Ryan Garcia fight. Moaning and groaning to his dad in the corner. Everybody heard that. Crying like a bitch, right? Only getting the decision because, of course, in Vegas, the Eastern European always loses to the fucking fixed judges. Golovkin, Kovalev, Loma. It's normal. That's what I'm saying. 154, Oscar wins. If it's at 168, Canelo wins. Yeah, but, you know, 18-4 was 18-4. What does that mean? Is that supposed to be Lomachenko's resume? Get the likes up, but don't be haters. Well, unfortunately, these dudes love to come on a stream where they can speak freely, but then still cry like bitches. What is Benavidez going to do next, you think? I think he's going to fight some mediocre opponent, and people that are all over Canelo shitting on him are going to ignore the fact that Benavidez is fighting some nobody. CCC is not the only white woman in the WNBA. Again, ignorant Sean. No, she's not. She's the only white woman who's carried the league, that's made the league successful, that's become a true superstar to the WNBA, because none of those other white girls or black girls ever were really able to do it. Only Caitlin Clark. So who's ignorant again, Dale? Never has the WNBA been more successful now than it is now, thanks to one white girl from Iowa. 18-3. Yeah, 18-3. Loma got screwed by the U.S. corruption. Typical. Even the first fight against Salido, he didn't lose that fight. He lost to Lopez, but even that fight was super competitive. And he looked like he was going to stop Lopez in that fight. Much praise to Lopez, though. He fucking represented like a monster in the 12th round, and really that's what won him that fight. But two fights that should be Lomachenko's, so it should be 20-1, and one fight that very easily, could have been swayed by one round. But yes, I know Lomachenko's a bum. He's garbage. He's shit. Keep telling yourself that, because that's all you guys are going to do. Keep talking out your ass. Caitlin Clark got popular because Reese beat her. White people got triggered by the finger wave. She was popular before that. And then she was popular the whole next year as she was fucking beating Reese's ass, and Reese was crying fucking post-conference. It's funny how someone can wave their finger one year and then fucking cry boo-hoo the next year. Fuck. Whereas you never saw Caitlin Clark do that, did you? No. Some people are more composed, right? They're not so sensitive, kind of like Dale Bailey. Haney equals gift decision, email belt. Meanwhile, Loma robbed. Get off KO boxing. You should learn to follow his blueprint. So I should dick ride Tank Davis after I dick rode Errol Spence all the way to his fucking being exposed by Bud Crawford. And I'll dick ride Tank Davis until he gets exposed the first time he steps up to face a legitimate opponent. Then I'll dick ride the next fucking fighter and literally stop talking about boxing, all to talk about Tank Davis every day. That's totally what I should do. Let's get Makhmudov versus Joyce next, the battle of no defense. That wouldn't be too bad, right? They're rumoring that, what's his face? Bakoli is going to be fighting Zhang, right? Which is a great matchup. Two big, giant, hard punchers. You could put Makhmudov versus Joyce on the undercard, right? And then you could put fucking Andy Ruiz versus Big Baby to see if Big Baby can bounce back after his knockout loss. That could be a great heavyweight matchup. That's the great thing about what Saudi Arabia is doing. Whether you win, lose, or draw, they're still giving you fights. They're still keeping you busy. They're still allowing you to get paid. So that shit's good. The white people were triggered about the finger wave enough for Caitlin. They suddenly cared about women's basketball. No, what made them care about women's basketball is the fact that this woman dominated NCAA, broke the women's and men's scoring record, uh, was super exciting, hitting threes fucking from almost half court and beating teams that were far more star-studded, full of all Americans, whereas her team wasn't. Yet she was playing teams like LSU and South Carolina, USC, UConn, teams with shitloads of all Americans, and still her team was beating them or competitive, right? So then she took that to the WNBA, and now she's starting to fucking dominate there too. It'll be interesting to see what Indiana Fever does in the playoffs. Joseph Parker just left out in the cold. He's not left out in the cold. He's going to get big fights too. I'd like to see him fight the Turkish guy. That would be a great fight. The Google Trends and ticket prices disagree with you. Laugh out loud. Google it. The Google Trends. What Google Trends? That Caitlin Clark Fever are averaging over 17,000 people in the stadium, whereas last year they averaged 4,000. What are you talking about? What Google? You don't talk boxing. You open your videos talking about boxing, then proceed to cry about a bunch of young black guys. Dale, you still here? I thought you unsubscribed and ran away to put yourself in your bunker in your basement, waiting for fucking the inevitable attack from Russia. It's coming. You better fucking get in the basement. Start eating fucking all that rations of beans you have. Haney walked away so funny when he sucker punched that guy. Yeah, it wasn't a good look. What these Loma haters don't know is that Salido took Marquez the distance, beat Robert Guerrero's ass, retired or ruined a pound for pound fighter in fucking Lopez. But stupid, ignorant fans don't know anything about the sport of boxing. TMG, some people are so upset that blacks don't dominate sports anymore. That's why Clark gets so much disrespect. Boxing is more diverse since it's gone global. Pure racism. Pure racism. I mean, this has nothing to do against black athletes. It's great that now we just have more athletes. And because of that, you're getting other races that are representing. It doesn't mean black athletes still aren't great and still aren't doing great things in sports. They are. Right? What's her face? Asia Wilson is fucking the best player in the WNBA. And she's getting more attention, thank you very much, to Caitlin Clark, right? Like, people always looking at things the wrong way, always trying to make things into a negative, as opposed to just be happy with what we're getting. Sports. Before the finger wave, Clark was not popular. Indiana ticket prices weren't as high. Google Trends show that. Okay. So keep hanging on to fucking that. Salido was a bum and he bullied Loma, yet white privilege got him a title shot right after. Yeah, that's what it is. It's not the fact that Lomachenko continued to have the fight card go on, even though he didn't need to continue to fight. He could have pulled out of that fight and then fought for that vacant title against a different opponent. But he chose to continue to have the date, keep his promoter from losing money, and then you wonder why he crossed over to another promoter to get that fight with Gary Russell. But again, you guys just trying to find some ways to disrespect and downplay. Like, guys like you don't even care that Joe Cordina just got knocked out, yet he's going to be Shakur Stevenson's next opponent. You don't care that he's getting a world title fight right off the bat. You didn't care that Rolly Romero, coming off of a Tank Davis knockout, fucking jumped into a WBA world title fight either. Guys like you don't care unless you can push some racial narrative, right? That's all you care about. I heard Haney got a money pox. I don't know what that is. Loma beat, best win is a life and death with an inexperienced young Gary Russell. Had 20 fights, right? But he was young and inexperienced. Okay. Yeah, okay. Black privilege is called Tank pound for pound when he fought one good opponent who was never a champion and a mental nutcase Garcia. Tank's best win is against a mentally unstable non-champion. Shakur's best win is Valdez, who arguably lost the previous fight to Consecal. Loma lost to a guy with 14 losses after turning pro at 30. Yeah, but once again, you ignore the fact that that guy with 14 losses uh, gave Marquez a life and death matchup, basically ruined a pound for pound fighter in Lopez, and fucking beat Robert Garcia before he became a great opponent for Floyd Mayweather, right? But I know, you just want to use that number as if it means something. Will PBC eventually have to give in to Turk? Well, they already are working with Saudi Arabia. That card in California had tons of PBC fighters on it. Now PBC fighters were just on Pro Box, right? The PBC can't support their stable because they don't have any fight dates. All they can do is put out pay-per-view. And if that's what they're going to do, they're never going to be able to get all their fighters out at all. And people will just continue to leave them. Haney's best win before Loma was an old ass Daenerys who had him doing the stinky leg like 4 times. What a bozo. What privilege is Spence coming off a loss to get a title shot? Exactly, exactly. But he doesn't care because for him, Spence deserves a world title shot. Remember, fucking John Boxing tried to justify it, saying, oh, Spence is coming off of a undisputed unification fight, so he deserves the rematch. Lomachenko, he doesn't deserve the fight, coming off of a controversial loss to Devin Haney, even though that was an undisputed fight too. But Loma didn't have the titles, even though it was still an undisputed fight. Spence had 3 of the 4 belts, so he deserves the fight, even though literally he got his ass beaten all over the fucking ring and retired. But he deserves a fight, not Lomachenko. Even though he will use Lomachenko to say that Devin Haney is pound for pound number 2 because he beat a fucking pound for pound fighter in Lomachenko. You can't make this shit up. You cannot literally fucking use a guy to hype up a fighter to pound for pound number 2 and then go on to say he doesn't deserve a world title fight because he's coming off of a loss. People are stupid as fuck. And this guy is no different. Who did Tank or Mayweather fight in their second fight? Was it a veteran champion like Salido? No, is the answer. Floyd and Tank did turn pro at 30. Neither did Loma, turned pro at 25, right? It's ironic because Cruz, the Cuban who turned pro, he was older than Lomachenko. But some reason I don't see Black American dudes like you going in on him. I wonder why. Rigo turned pro older than Lomachenko, but some reason you guys never bring that up when you talk about Rigo. I wonder why. It's funny how just because of the skin color of Lomachenko, all these things become significant, right? They're significant because he's white. If he wasn't white, we wouldn't even talk about it because it would be insignificant. You know, American BBC fighters bring in the views. Apparently that's not fucking true, but okay. Tank only got a pound for pound list because Floyd cried to the media saying, "You's keeping him off because of me," which was a lie. Laugh out loud. Yup, Shakur really sells, doesn't he? Ooh, he sells. Excuses for Loma losing to a guy with 14 losses at 30. No excuses. He fought a 3-weight world champion who had great victories on his resume, who was better than fucking probably anybody that fucking Tank Davis has ever fought. But okay. Did Tank or Floyd fight a 24-0 opponent like Loma did with Gary, or were they fighting bums? Bums. Andy Cruz floated on a tire to get to America. It's not the same. Oh my God. Dude, man. Every time you open your mouth, you just look fucking stupider and stupider. You cannot put up fucking hurdles to fucking defend one fighter with a narrative you're using to hate on another fighter. On his third fight, mind you. Hey, Sean, it's interesting. In the beginning, Lomachenko got all the hype, but looking back, Usyk has had a much better career. Well, it's not that he had a better career, but he ended up getting into decisions, right? If he would have potentially lost one of those fights, which could have happened, uh, things might be different, right? And even though things have went his way, he's still marginalized and ignored by the majority of boxing fans who don't even want to put him above Bud Crawford on their pound for pound list, even though what he's done is super significant. No one really paid attention to Usyk. Saying Gary is better than anyone Floyd fought is crazy. No, you're not listening, T17. He's saying initially, when Floyd came into his career, he fought a bunch of bum ass fighters until he finally fought one legitimate fighter who actually retired right after fighting him. So you have to ask yourself, how legitimate of a victory was that if the guy retired afterwards? But okay. If he started his career so late and achieved all that, is even more impressive. Yep. He didn't do it in his third fight. He did was fighting guys with losses in the double digits. Losses. You know, the irony is I see people like John and others shit on guys and pull out double digit losses in their resumes. But now Chisora made people look stupid because people literally have been shitting on Chisora when Usyk fought Chisora. These same kind of people were shitting on Usyk fighting Chisora and then not even looking great and dominant against Chisora. But yet Chisora just came back and fucking beat a top heavyweight. And he's got double digit losses. The amount of Mexican fighters in boxing history who have double digit losses in their resumes, but still went on to do great things later on in their career is huge. Because unlike most Americans, the Mexicans didn't have amateur pedigree. They actually learned in the gym. That's where they became fighters. And then obviously going into the ring to get money because they come from a third world fucking country. So, you know, to be a guy like Salvador Sanchez and have that career speaks volumes about him. Will they put that Bakoli Zhang fight in China? That would be exciting for them. I think it would be great to do that, right? Obviously, China would fucking go bonkers to put that fight there. I think globally it's great. I don't see why you weren't. They were going to do that big fight in the islands close to Taiwan, right? Just on the border of China, like off the coast, which is their big sort of, you know, island resort area. But unfortunately, COVID kicked in. I can't remember what fight card that was, but it was going to go there. I think it was a top rank fight card. And unfortunately, COVID kicked in and that fight didn't happen. But this kind of fight would be huge. You could do this in one of the big places in China. It would be gigantic. Remember that other Chinese fighter used to do pay-per-views in China for the equivalent of what was like $1 pay-per-view. And the amount of money he made was ridiculous. That's why he retired after like 2 losses. Because it was like, I've got paid so much money from fighting on Chinese TV, charging people $1 for my pay-per-views, that I never need to fight again. After having 3 Olympic, like I think he fought in the Olympics 3 times and then became a pro. It's easy to stay undefeated like Tank and Shakur when you fight unranked opponents most of your career. Tank took 11 rounds to stop an injured old-ass Gamboa. Agree Usyk was also lucky to have enough convincing wins and to get robbed like Loma, but also not get injured. Yep. Loma struggled with a guy Tank knocked out. Once again, this doesn't prove your narrative. Petraza was weight trained when he fought Tank Davis. That shows because he moved all the way to 140. So when he told you he couldn't make weight and he only took the Tank Davis fight because the money Floyd gave him, it pretty much tells you that he couldn't make weight for that fight, which is probably why he fought as reckless as he did, because he didn't think he could fight smart and have a gas tank for 12 rounds. But Lomachenko basically knocked his ass out too, dominated, humiliated him, but struggled to unify titles. But okay. Okay. Loma was unable to win 2 gold medals and didn't have 400. Floyd was unable to win 2 gold medals and didn't have 400 amateur fights. Excuses for Loma struggling. No excuses. He didn't struggle. He won the fight. Fucking dropped him. looked like he was going to knock him out, and Lomachenko's not a big puncher in his third weight division. What do you mean? Struggled. LDBC got Wilder to come to their meet and greet. What fighter ever showed up there? They gave him an award, Lifetime Achievement Award. 18-4. Gary was 24-0 and known as one of the fastest fighters, and had won, what was it? Top prospect or top young fighter of the year, prior to fighting Lomachenko, went on to hold the WBC title for 7 years in a row. And some people had him on their pound for pound lists. Amateur career achievements are as significant, just not to casuals. True. You'll have losses when you actually fight champions. Well, that's the thing. Throughout boxing history, when you look at legitimate fighters, Sugar Ray Robinson, how many losses did Sugar Ray Robinson have? He is the epitome, the guy that most real fans say is the best fighter in boxing history. But obviously, he didn't have any losses, because if you're that good, you fucking couldn't lose. That would be fucking impossible, because no good fighter fucking ever gets beat, right? That would be unimaginable. So Ray Robinson, I can't believe they got Jimmy fucking number 2. So Ray Robinson, 19 losses, only knocked out once, and that was by a fucking light heavyweight, Joey Maxey, or Maxim. So that tells you a lot right there. But 19 losses, right? 19. What a bum. Fucking bum. Whereas the number 2 fighter from Canada, Jimmy McLaren, 11 losses. So he obviously was better, right? It's a shame he's only at number 2. Carlos Monzon, obviously Carlos Monzon had to be better. Only 3 losses, right? But what a bum. I mean, look, fucking 87 wins, 3 losses, 9 draws, never knocked out. But losses somehow means you're a bum. Hammer and Hank Armstrong, some of the bums he fought, but yet 21 losses, 10 draws, right? Through boxing history, when you continue to fight great fighters a lot, you got a lot of losses on you. People hype up Floyd Mayweather and hype up his resume, but Oscar De La Hoya's resume is fucking way better than De La Hoya's. And that is why De La Hoya has several losses in his resume, because he fought way better opponents throughout his career. Early on in his career, he was taking on real top-level dudes much faster than Floyd Mayweather. He was taking on better opponents throughout his career, right? But, okay. Laugh out loud. Walter didn't get me started. You'll have losses when you actually fight someone. That Haney loss was a great loss on Loma's record, sure. To casuals like you, y'all made excuses when Gary had an injury shoulder against Magsaya, but when Lomachenko had an injury against Linares and Tio, then all of a sudden they don't want to hear it. I know. This is always these casual fans. You have glasses on and still can't read the comments correctly. Get a new prescription, Pops. Oh, I'm so offended. I feel like Dale Bailey. I bet Tree Flomos don't know Floyd only fought 3 undefeated fighters in 50 fights. Of course they don't know. They don't know anything. They're going to blow fucking Floyd, blow so much smoke up Floyd's ass, because Floyd is the epitome of the Black American. Undefeated. We can use Floyd to represent us and make us feel successful. But Floyd's success has nothing to do with you. So unfortunately, you're still a fucking scrub, unemployed, fucking living in your mom's basement, and doing nothing but pushing hate because you feel insignificant. Right, Garden Snake? Floyd beat Oscar. Yeah, by split decision, and then doctor rematch. Understandable. Tank has beaten most undefeated fighters in the game, so I guess he has the best ever. Well, according to you, he must be. Didn't Sugar Ray Robertson unalive someone in the ring? Probably. Back in those days, right? It's not uncommon. Wilder got losses. Ali got losses. Guess they're bums too, huh? Well, Wilder is, yeah, but not Ali. It's not what Floyd dad had to say. They're less of a bum than an 18-3 Loma. Well, Floyd is American. Yeah, even more reasons to fucking expose him as being fucking a cherry picker, because we know that's the way the Americans roll, right? Everyone needs to come to America to fight, but Americans don't need to go anywhere to fight. Andre Ward, the only guy in the Super Six that didn't have to travel. Imagine. Guy never was a world champion, but he got fucking A-side status in the Super Six, even though there was like 3, 4 world champions. When will Inoue fight some good names or 50-50 dangerous fights? Same for Shakur. Inoue's already fought dangerous fighters. Floyd's dad had Oscar winning. Floyd's dad liked Oscar. That's why there was a bit of a split between Floyd's dad and Floyd. Biggest problem with Oscar, he's like Ryan Garcia. He's also mental. And also was diddled as a kid, which is why he's a little fucked up as an adult. Floyd's dad can't change record books. Yeah, but only casual fans like you fucking hang on to record books because it's the only way you can justify your narrative. Right? Like history won't fucking be so easy, unfortunately, for people pushing your narratives, but it's okay. We understand, those that can't do talk shit online. So, that pretty much exposes you and the rest of these guys on this chat section. But, okay. Keep it up. We're still waiting for, some real boxing talk as opposed to just a bunch of bullshit. But we don't expect any from you. But let's get back to Inoue. Obviously, we know what he's doing in 2024. We sort of mentioned about 2025 that people would like to see him fight MJ. I would like that fight. I would also love to see him fight Junto Nakatani in 2025. And maybe even by the end of 2025, we could possibly be talking about a possible Bam Rodriguez fight. It is 15, 16 months away. So there's plenty of time for Bam to unify at 115 pounds, go up and win a title at 118, and then jump at a possible Inoue fight. Obviously, the expectations of that happening are not so big, but depending on the money, right? If the money talks, then Bam would be stupid not to go up and fight Inoue because he's not going to get paid big money fighting any of these other dudes at 118 and 115. Like literally, he just fought Estrada. There's no other fighter at those weight divisions outside of possibly a Roman Gonzalez that could generate big money. Nakatani can't draw that money. That Argentinian kid fucking can't draw flies. The 3 Japanese champions at 118, none of them can sell. Inoue sells only because he fights in his brother's undercards, right? Junto isn't a big seller, but obviously is growing and growing and growing now that he's getting pound for pound hype. So for Bam, the biggest possible fight for him is obviously an Inoue fight. And that would be a great fight too. So where are we? He wants to fight Casemiro this year. Well, I know he wanted to fight Casemiro because Casemiro talked such a load of shit, right? And that would be an interesting fight. People that hate on Inoue would still love the Casemiro fight just because Casemiro is a talk shit guy with big power, kind of like a Filipino Rolly Romero. So that fight would actually sell. That was the fight he was supposed to do in the US, right? But then COVID kicked in and that fight was canceled. And then Casemiro signed with the PBC. So a few unfortunate circumstances stopped that fight from happening. That fight probably won't happen though. Floyd cherry-picked reminds me of Jake Paul cherry-picking just at a higher level. Face of Boxing just did 200,000 pay-per-view buys with Martin. Bozo Canelo is the face till he retires. How about Nick Ball beats Ronnie Rios? You put Inoue versus Ball in the UK. The thing is, Nick Ball, even if he beats, beating Rios is not a fucking significant victory. It's something you should do. If he wants to get a Inoue fight, what he needs to do is fucking unify with some of those other champions at 126 pounds. You become a unified champion, right? And then you have the big UK fan base behind you with Saudi Arabia money and the zone. Now all of a sudden you're cooking with fucking gas, right? Now potentially you have the kind of fight that America doesn't have, the kind of fight that could really sort of entice Inoue to actually travel outside of Japan to take on an opponent. But if he stays at 118, Junto Nakatani is going up to chase him. MJ is definitely coming to Japan to fight him, unless Saudi Arabia offers some ridiculous fucking payday. Casemiro, he's probably coming to Japan. Bam Rodriguez, that fight you probably would do in Vegas, but at the same time, we see what Vegas does to non-American fighters. He'd probably get robbed unless he knocks Bam out. Inoue versus Bam is the fight. Well, I think the first fight is Junto, right? I'm hoping Junto in December unifies versus Inoue's brother. WBC champion versus WBA champion. The winner of that, well, obviously Junto, then moves up and challenges Inoue for his 122-pound undisputed title. You have the whole revenge thing, brother revenging his brother's loss, right? Huge battle, Leonard versus Hearns to the Japanese market. That shit would be fucking dynamite. Dynamite. I hope that happens exactly like that. Knock on wood. That would be the perfect fucking storm. Perfect storm. As far as other big fights, I mean, what else are we going to get, right? When 2024 ends, we're getting our light heavyweight fight. We obviously got Usyk versus Fury. For things to work out perfectly, we'd need Fury to beat Usyk so that we could do a Fury versus AJ fight. And hopefully Usyk would step aside to allow them to fight and then take on the winner, right? Which would be smart for him as well. Because that fight obviously would be huge cash to take on that winner for undisputed. So you got that fight. And then what else do you have as far as big fights in 2025, right? We sort of got all our big fights in 2023 and 2024. As far as what big fights we can have then, you have Shakur versus Tank, but that fight looks very unlikely to happen. You got the Ryan Garcia, Devin Haney rematch. That fight obviously will do big numbers, bigger than the original fight did. Usyk Fury obviously is happening this year, but then obviously potentially Fury versus AJ next year would be huge. But outside of that, what other big fights are there, right? If Canelo fights Bud Crawford, that could be big. Or if he fights the winner of Beterbiev and Bivol, that could be big. But a lot of ifs, ands, and buts when we're talking about that. So, nothing that we could definitely tie down. I'd love to see a sick fight, Bam versus Inoue, boxing, Sugar Ray Robertson, Jordan, John Jones, Pat Mahomes, Barry Bonds. You see the pattern here with the GOATs? No, I just see you pushing a black narrative, and you say Pat Mahomes above fucking... Come on. You can't say that because there's one GOAT at the NFL, and it ain't Pat Mahomes. Barry Bonds can't even go to the Hall of Fame. So how is he the GOAT, even though he's my fucking favorite baseball player? John Jones, my favorite MMA fighter, but that dude got caught with more steroids up his ass than fucking Ryan Garcia. Sugar Ray Robertson's been dead so long, nobody that follows boxing even actually knows who he is. Jordan, yes, Jordan's the champ. But why are you so obsessed with pushing some black narrative? Does this mean something about you? Does this make you feel like you're successful? Right? I don't need to push some white narrative because I don't need these people to represent me. I don't need to say Wayne Gretzky, hockey, Larry Bird, NBA. I don't need to do that because I don't feel inferior, but apparently you do. And that must be tough. Nick Ball just beat Raymond Ford for a belt. Little Nick earned a shot against the monster. Yeah, okay, sure he did. Nakatani as well. Smash the likes. Just because you won it doesn't mean anybody earned it. What's this fraud Sean capping about now? Salute. That garden snake dude is a troll. Of course he is. I'm hearing Bud versus GGG. Well, let's hope that's fucking not true because there's no need for that. There's a lot of good fights at 154. We don't need fucking to dig GGG up. Mahorns literally comes out of a white woman. Is Nakatani taller and longer than Inoue? Yes. If Janibek is staying at 160, he should unify versus Adamas. The winner fights Lara and Danny Garcia, winner for Undisputed. You know, the only fight that's going to happen there is possibly Adamas fighting Lara, Danny Garcia winner. Janibek ain't going to get any of those in-house PBC fights. And his wife is white. That has to be John. His children look white. That must be John. Well, I don't think it's John because, as again, I don't think John puts out fake troll accounts. But, you know, if he does, I'm disappointed in you, John, if you do that. But I don't think it is. I don't think John would stoop to those levels. But the reality is, who fucking cares, man? Like, you need to make these kind of fucking stupidity comments to make you feel proud to be black? Don't you have enough great black athletes that you should feel proud anyway? Why do you need to try to shit on every other race to make you feel good about yourself? I don't know. I don't walk around Taiwan trying to fucking hype up everything white so that I fucking look great fucking towards Chinese people. John is a racist but has a white wife. I think she's Mexican. I don't think she's white. How is that possible? No, I mean, I think it's funny because I said he's talking about, you know, beautiful black women, but he didn't marry a black woman. So, I mean, you know, I guess he does have sisters and a mom, but nonetheless, that didn't make enough impact that he married a black sister. So, you know, I probably was closer to marrying a black sister than John was. But that's neither here nor there. Because the truth is, if you get married, it's probably just a bad fucking choice, regardless of what color they are. But thanks everyone for jumping on for our Inoue video and the political fucking spectrum that it turned towards. Thank you very much, Dale Brown. You know, I don't know how we get into American politics, but unfortunately, you know, people are mental and somehow have to always deflect to some crazy fucking narrative. But it is what it is. You know, people need to follow history a little more and maybe they'll understand global politics a little better. But not for me to speak. If people are too lazy or too ignorant, I mean, you know, the truth is you don't need to worry about it because you can't do anything about it. So what the fuck? Who cares? But thanks everyone for jumping in. I appreciate it. I will see you this weekend, even though I'm not sure I won't ever get married. That's the one piece of advice my dad gave me. And he said, whatever you do, Sean, don't get married. Keep hiding behind the greatest country. What country is that? Great Britain. But thank you very much. Dale is shell-shocked. Please forgive him. You know, it's unfortunate that he was used by his country in some political fucking agenda to make money for rich fucking white old men. And he was a pawn in the game and is too ignorant to understand that. But, you know, we do appreciate people that represent our countries because their heart is in the right place. So, you know, we appreciate it. For all the soldiers around the world who risked their lives to make rich people richer. Thank you very much. Peace out, everyone.